the new marketing for your small business podcast. Delivering the latest opportunities in marketing to help your small business grow and prosper in a digital world.
Hey guys, welcome to the new marketing for your small business podcast. We got a great episode for you today. It's all about LinkedIn, and we're going to share some tips with you on how to absolutely crush it on LinkedIn for your small business, or if you're a marketer for another business. But first things first, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Luke Porter, and I'm with Moving Tree Media.
Hey, everybody. My name is William Schultz, and I am with Vivid Concepts Media.
Thanks for joining us again. So let's kick things off. What do you got for me, William?
Well, I think, like you had mentioned, today we are going to be talking about growing your business on LinkedIn. And oddly enough, people out there might not know, but if you listen to one of our earlier podcasts, you'll know that LinkedIn is kind of what brought Luke and I together. We met in a business networking group where Luke was kind of giving a presentation on LinkedIn. And at that time, I was like a huge LinkedIn guy, and nobody in my business group was. And he was basically preaching he was serving up the Jim Jones juice, the Kool-Aid, and I was drinking it all, man. And so from that point, we kind of connected and we're kindred souls on LinkedIn. And one day, Luke reached out to me on LinkedIn, and we've kind of been collaborating on a lot of different things since. So LinkedIn is we're definitely proponents of LinkedIn here at the New Marketing for Your Small Business podcast. So along those lines, Luke, when we talk about LinkedIn, it seems like, a lot of people still think of it as this like foreign, desert oasis, or I shouldn't say oasis, but desert, dried out, nothing going on social media platform. So, with that in mind, and the people's, opinions of LinkedIn in mind, why should people care about LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. There's still this stigma out there, I think, that it's just a job search platform. And it's very much not that anymore. For any listeners here that haven't been on LinkedIn in a few years, it is very different from that. It actually has the second best organic reach after vertical videos, such as TikTok, Instagram Reels. Those vertical videos have the best organic reach out there. LinkedIn is the second best. And as we've said in the past, organic reach means you can hit this huge audience without spending a dime on it if you do it right. So LinkedIn has almost 1 billion users at this point. Ever since the pandemic, engagement is up, posts are up. It is full of activity. And if you do it right, you can get all these eyeballs on your content, and you can grow your network. I've gotten business directly out of LinkedIn, and I've helped my clients get business directly out of LinkedIn as well. So business is happening. It's not all B2B. There's B2C stuff happening as well. So even if it's not your main social media platform, I think that having an audience there, having a presence there is really important.
Luke, could you talk about, you said that you've gotten business for yourself from LinkedIn. Can you talk about what are some of the things that you did to get business, and what kind of business did you get?
So what I think of it as is branding, building up my brand or helping my clients build up their brands. We're not on LinkedIn pushing sales. We're not getting in people's faces asking them to buy stuff from us. We're out there offering great advice. We're out there putting ourselves out there as a friendly, helpful person and showing off our skills. So when I do that, when I put my drone stuff on there, I get people reaching out to me for drone work. When I put my video production stuff on there, I get people reaching out to me because they're either in my network already or people in my network are commenting on it. So then these other folks see that just because the comments add to the reach of the video or the post. And then my clients have had the same results, where you put yourself out there as an expert in your field. And when people need that service, you're the person they think of.
So just to be clear, you're talking about growing a brand. You're talking about posting organically, no real call to action. You're not really saying, hey, look at this drone video. Now reach out to me to hire me. You're really just posting, sharing, and people are just organically being drawn to your content.
Yes, there is a place for call to action, and I would say it's best when used sparingly. You and I are both fans of Gary Vee and his jab, 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 right hook philosophy, where you give, you give, you give, you give, you give. And then at some point you can ask. There's times where I have set up video production shoots at a hotel ballroom, and I put that out there that, hey, I'll be here on this date from here to here. If you want to schedule a session, reach out to me. So there's times to ask, but most of the time there's no call to action. It is just putting out good value, good information, and letting the people come to you.
So then would you recommend that's how most businesses should go about it? And I guess kind of the follow-up question would be, how can a small business owner or marketer utilize LinkedIn to grow their business?
I would recommend that in most cases. I have several clients who are realtors, several who are lawyers, and their posts tend to perform better when they don't kick it off with, hey, if you need my services, here's my phone number and my email and my website and my Calendly link to schedule an appointment, and on and on and on and on. Their posts perform so much better without that stuff, and they get the better business without that stuff. So part of it is what you post. And LinkedIn is one of those rare platforms where you could post a really long, like almost blog length amount of text, and it does really well. Long posts are one of the best performing things on LinkedIn, way better than any other platform. And if you follow people, you add connections, and we'll get to that later. But when you see what other people are posting and the way they phrase it, there's a certain cadence on LinkedIn that works really well. There's this storytelling element where your first sentence is meant to grab people and pull them in to read through your post. Emojis do really well on LinkedIn, strategic use of emojis. So this written word is one of the things that's a driving force on LinkedIn. And on the flip side of that, LinkedIn actually has kind of a drought when it comes to video. The algorithm literally doesn't have enough video content to show. So video over indexes on LinkedIn because of that fact. I've had videos get thousands of views on LinkedIn that on Facebook don't get nearly that much reach. Now that's different, of course, than vertical video on other platforms. But when we're talking about traditional video, it does really well on LinkedIn. And then the type of content that does well, number one is educational content. Yeah. 3 things you didn't know about your business. For a realtor, 3 new types of smart locks that you can use on your home. Stuff that's related to what you do, but it's not pushing what you do so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that about the video. I as you said that, I think maybe I heard Gary Vee or somebody say that, but that is a really important factor about there not being enough, video. And it's like anything in business. It is a supply and demand thing. And there's definitely a higher demand than there is a supply of video on LinkedIn. So for you guys that are listening out there, you business owners or marketers, if you're not somebody that's shy about cameras or video, or you understand video, or you can hire someone to bring in someone to do video like myself or Luke, you can probably, crack the code, so to speak, of the algorithm and get your business and your content in front of more people more efficiently and organically versus maybe having to pay to play like you might have to on some other sites.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you? What have you seen on LinkedIn? What advice would you give your clients about the platform?
I would say something that you just touched on would be the kind of content that you post. Educational works really well. And I would say this, to anybody out there listening, if you're thinking about the kind of content to post, also think about the kind of audience you're posting to and think about their mindset. I think what you have to understand is when somebody logs on to LinkedIn, they're not necessarily looking for a silly dance. They're not looking for prank videos. That's not the mindset. People are on there mostly for business purposes. They're in there to learn a skill. They're in there to maybe validate a skill they've already, they acquired, but they want validation to say that maybe like, hey, I'm a marketer, I'm talking about marketing, and other marketers agree with you and say, yeah, that's a great strategy. Or even like Luke, you're a videographer. Anytime you post some great video, you're getting feedback from the other people in the community. So, there's a different mindset. So when you go into LinkedIn and you're going to post a video or write a written copy, it's okay to post something a little longer. It's okay to have a longer formatted video. As Luke said, having a widescreen video versus a vertical video that you might see on TikTok or Instagram. And also, like he said, you can almost do like a blog style post. The other thing I would say, LinkedIn used to punish people. The algorithm would punish you for having links that took people off LinkedIn. They're starting to warm up to that more. The other thing that we know is that LinkedIn doesn't like a lot of hashtags. And so you don't want to load up your post with a ton of hashtags on LinkedIn, because the algorithm can penalize you for that. And something that, and I don't know if this is relevant to LinkedIn, but I know on some of the other platforms and just in general with algorithms, because the technology is so good with identifying what's being said and what the content is on a video, a lot of people are saying hashtags aren't as relevant as they once were, because the algorithm can go through your video, figure out what the keywords were, and they can distribute that to your audience based on interest. So those are some of the things I think about when using the LinkedIn platform: educational videos, longer format, and the mindset being that of, hey, we're here for business more than we are for pleasure. And then also, not loading up your hashtags, letting the algorithm do some of the work, and also being okay now to have links that go off the platform.
Yeah, those are great points. It's actually the only platform that doesn't penalize you for having links. Facebook penalizes you. On Instagram, everyone says link in bio, link in profile. Studies have shown your posts perform less well if you put that text in there. But LinkedIn has been cool with it.
Yeah.
The other thing you would mention is kind of, people commenting, joining conversations. That's a huge part of how to get seen on LinkedIn, is to be commenting on other people's stuff.
Yes.
That is how it's a great reminder for people of what you do. Maybe they haven't seen your work in a while. Maybe they missed your post, but if you comment on their stuff, man, they remember you right away. You're at the front of their mind. And then on your own posts, you should be doing two things every single time someone comments. First is react to it, either like it or laugh at it or applaud it. And the second is to reply to it. Always do those two things, because that gives your post way more reach, because not only is the algorithm seeing that it's a popular post, but whoever commented on your post, all of their connections will see that in their feed, that, hey, Rick commented on Luke's post. Yeah. So that's an important thing to keep in mind.
And I'll piggyback off of that and say that I remember when I was really heavy on LinkedIn, when I would take a break, maybe a couple of days away, LinkedIn would kind of penalize me for that, because when I was on LinkedIn more regularly, I commented a lot. And I'm going to tell you, the more you engage with other people's content on LinkedIn, LinkedIn rewards your profile and starts putting your profile in front of more people's timelines. So another thing to think about, and you kind of just brought it up, is that engagement is rewarded heavily on LinkedIn. If you are commenting on other people's posts, it will reward you. If you're liking things, it'll reward you. I've even read that when you're doing inbox messages and you're actually engaging with people in the inbox, they will start to reward your engagement through that. The other thing I would suggest too is when you do comment on people's stuff, something that I found that really helps boost your presence is when you tag their name. So if I would say at Luke Porter, that was a great video. Even if it's on Luke Porter's thing, just adding his name and adding people's name, it also boosts engagement. It shows that you're not just making a bland comment, but you're actually having a conversation with somebody in the comment section, and LinkedIn rewards you for that. And it's so weird because for whatever reason, if you're doing something over here off your own profile and you're having this engaging conversation, LinkedIn will then start to reward the content you post that's not even relevant to that stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So of course, none of this content is going to get seen as well if you don't have any connections. So it's important to start filling out those connections on LinkedIn. And it does not have to be people that you know. For a lot of my clients, like I mentioned before, the realtors, the lawyers that I work for, when I am searching for people to connect with on their behalf, I am looking for people in their target audience. So like the realtors that I work with, they're looking for maybe people in that right age range where they want to move up, they want to buy a bigger house. So that means they need to have a certain income level to buy a bigger house. And that tends to go with certain job titles. So when I'm adding connections for my realtor clients, the search bar up in the upper left, you can search for like engineer, and then it's going to drop down. It's going to say, hey, did you mean engineer in companies, people, job titles? You pick people, and then it's going to show you all the people in your area. And for us, it's Minneapolis, St. Paul, all the people in our area who have engineer as their job titles. So then I'm able to go and add those connections on behalf of my clients. And then these people that might be ready to move up to a bigger house at some point, my client, the realtor, is top of mind because he's the person that's been in their LinkedIn feed over and over again, giving great advice, giving free advice, giving tips that they remember. That's the strategy for growing your list of connections there.
So then, so give us some tips on that. Like, how do you do that without being, kind of spammy? Like for me personally, I get really turned off when somebody's like, oh, hey, I see we have some people in common, and you connect them, right? And then immediately 30 seconds later, they're in your inbox selling you on something that's not even relevant to your business, right? So how do you do these connections without coming off like a spam bot?
There's two things. The first is setting up your profile the right way. Part of that is your title. You can customize your title on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be your exact specific job title. Like mine is, I believe, video production / digital marketing / drone videography. If you just put realtor as your job title, that's not quite as good as one of my clients. Theirs is, I'm a realtor who helps people get into their dream homes. Now that's a cool title. That's someone that you'd be more likely to follow. And then on your profile, one thing that most people are lacking, and if you don't remember anything else from this podcast, please do this: add a featured section to your profile. Most LinkedIn profiles are just a wall of text about me, education, work experience, skills. It's just a wall of text. But if you add a featured profile section, it makes this really nice slideshow of your posts, of your articles. It's the only visually eye-catching thing on a profile. And studies have shown people are way more likely to connect with you if they go to your profile and they see this slideshow of stuff that you post, and they can be like, oh, okay, this person actually posts some decent stuff. I actually want to see this person's posts in my feed. So setting up your profile the right way is one part of it. The other part is when you send that connection request, there's two ways to do it. And I would recommend only doing it these two ways because other things come off as spam. There's so much spam on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
One way is just send a blank connection request. I do this most of the time and with good success, because then they go to your profile to decide if they want to follow you or not. They go and look at your stuff.
And Luke, for clarity on the audience, you're saying send a blank profile request or connection request to, these are the people you don't know, right? We're talking about people you don't have any prior relationship with, correct?
Yep, exactly. Thank you for clarifying. For the people you do know, or that you kind of can know through other people, maybe someone you're not really close to, but hey, you know that your friend who's a realtor, that this is one of their clients and one of their friends. So you have this strong connection through this other person. Then the right way to do it is to write a connection request, write a message with it that explains how you guys have this mutual connection. It has to be something substantial, not like, hey, I see we both live in Minnesota, let's connect. That's not good enough. In that case, it's better to just send a blank request. But if you're like, hey, we both know Rick really well, and it looks like we have a lot of the same contacts, maybe we should connect.
Yep. So what do you do then? Let me ask you this. How are you leveraging the connections afterwards? Are you doing anything with, reaching out to them in their inbox, or are you just kind of saying now they're part of my network, they're part of my audience, I can post content on my page and hopefully they'll engage with it?
So personally, I'm not the best at this because, us small business owners, we're busy people. I don't really engage with those people as much as I should. I just let them see my content in the feed.
Yeah.
But a good way to do it is to message them from a completely non-sales standpoint, just genuine, showing interest in them, asking about what they do, making it very clear you are not spamming them.
Yes. I would agree with that. In the past, when I've done that, I just always say, and even if I'm going to send them a message request, and I'll give you an example. So I used to because I was such a Gary Vee guy, and I felt like I wanted to build my network with people that had that similar kind of Gary Vee type of mindset. If somebody liked one of the comments I left on Gary Vee's page, what I would do is I would send them a request, and in my request message, I would say, "Hey, I saw that you posted this on Gary Vee, replied to this comment," and I would put my specific comment that I made reference to that. And I said, "Hey, look, and I would emphasize this in bold letters. I would say, I am not trying to sell you anything. I'm just looking to connect with like-minded people that share a common interest in Gary Vee and build my network with cool people." And I left it at that. And the majority of the people would respond, and then they would send me a message, and we would just talk. And most of these people were never going to be clients, but sometimes the people that aren't your clients and engage in your content help your content get boosted to the people that could potentially be clients, right? So that's kind of a way I kind of circumvented that. And then when I did message somebody in their inbox, I made it clear that I didn't have any sales interest. It's kind of like I have a coach, a business coach, in the real estate side of things. And they said, I asked them like, "Hey, if you cold call people, what are you saying?" And she said, "I just check in on them. I just check in on them. And I wait. After a while, they're going to ask me what I'm doing, and I'm going to mention what I do. And then they're going to ask me a follow-up question. And at that point in time, I'll talk about real estate, right?" So, if you just have natural conversations with people and you honestly don't have an ulterior motive, eventually you'll get to that point where they're going to ask you about your business.
Yeah, and another way to foster those natural conversations, there's a lot of LinkedIn challenges out there. And what those are is it'll be like, okay, through this challenge, you have to post every single day for 2 weeks. And each of those posts, you got to get up to like 20 likes and 20 comments. And it really pushes you to make more content. It pushes you to be strategic about what content you're putting out in order to get that engagement. And then since there's so much liking and commenting happening around these challenges, you meet a lot of new people and you do have a lot of those genuine conversations that you mentioned.
Yes, I would agree. I would say that I found more genuine people on LinkedIn than any other platform I've ever been on. Like genuine people. Now, conversely, I found there's probably more spam, if you had mentioned, on LinkedIn, but honestly, there are more genuine people on LinkedIn than there are on these other platforms. There's a lot more encouragement. There's a lot more positive reinforcement. I mean, I have been stagnant on that platform a little bit because I'm going through a brand shift. And when I do post something, there's like 4 or 5 people that I met like 3 or 4 years ago that, "Hey, how you been? Good to see you. Great to see you posting again." I can tell you right now, you're not going to see that on Facebook. You're not going to see that on Instagram. You sure in hell ain't going to see that on TikTok, right? That's a vibe that only resides on LinkedIn.
Yep, absolutely. 2 more things come to mind before we wrap up. One is I had mentioned putting that title in, customizing your LinkedIn title. Also think about search when you're putting your title in, about what people are searching for. Because I've seen some mortgage brokers who they put their title as mortgage specialist, and that's all they put. Well, if someone is searching for a mortgage broker specifically through the algorithm, mortgage specialist might not show up. So to be strategic about what you put your title as. And the other thing is, this is a whole nother rabbit hole that we won't fully get into today, but the LinkedIn ad platform is really unique. It's more expensive than the other ad platforms. So you're paying more than Facebook, Instagram, Twitter ads. But the unique thing about it is it's the only platform you can target by job title, which is really powerful. One of my clients is a construction company, and they want to reach commercial developers specifically. That is really hard to find commercial developers specifically on an individual person basis on the internet. But through LinkedIn, if they spend just a little bit more money, they can target those developers by job title, and you can even target by employees of a certain company. So the ad platform is powerful, even though it's pricey.
Yeah. I recently did some ads for somebody, and we didn't do that well because it was our first time doing a LinkedIn ad. We did better on Facebook, but it was because we weren't as specific. We weren't targeting people by job title. That's a great, it's a really great point right there. So, well, as we're wrapping up here, I know we always like to talk about some projects. Before we get into that, are there any other things that you can think of, Luke, that are must knows for our small business owners and marketers out there when it comes to LinkedIn?
No, I think I covered it all, actually.
Yeah, and I would just say, my final thing would just kind of go back to something I said earlier. LinkedIn rewards engagement. So if you are a marketer and if you are somebody that wants to actively grow your business on LinkedIn, I think you want to really have engagement be part of that strategy. You can post all the content you want in the world, but if you want free, quote unquote, free organic reach, you want to be engaged on the platform. You want to just be on the platform, scrolling through things, reading articles, commenting on people's pages. I think that's a really good way to boost your awareness, your brand awareness on there. And again, if you can't afford the time to do it yourself, you can go on Fiverr or hire a virtual assistant, pay them $5 or $10 an hour, a couple of times a week to just go through there and act as you on the platform or act as your business to engage in that. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to that portion of the show. But we also like to talk about projects that we're working on out there. So, Luke, why don't you tell us about a project that you worked on recently or working on right now?
So actually tonight, I am going to Nicollet Mall in downtown Minneapolis, and there is a performing artist there. Her name is Sim1. That's the word Sim and then the number 1. And she is going to be performing her latest hit with glow sticks and 3 drones circling around her as she does it. And I'm going to be one of those 3 drone pilots. And all the drones are going to have their lights on. And there's going to be several photographers there doing these long exposures, as well as some other videographers there. You may have seen videos like this on YouTube or TikTok, where people make these long light trails using things like glow sticks. So we're going to make these light trails swirling around her with our drones. And I'm pretty excited for it. So check out Sim1. I don't know when the release is going to drop. I don't know how long it's going to take them to edit it, but I would assume sometime in the next few weeks.
Well, when that drops, we need to make sure we send a link out on our next podcast. I want to see that. I'm sure the audience will too.
Definitely. How about you? What have you been working on?
I think the most recent and most interesting project I worked on was I worked on a Facebook marketing campaign for a real estate investment company called Endurus Capital. And they were raising money for their latest property acquisition, which was like a 92-unit townhouse, I guess you would call it association in Columbus, Ohio. It was my first time doing ads for a company like that. And we spent about $1,500 on one of the ads. And as of, I think Thursday was the day it ended, I think we got over 100 and some lead generating. There were lead generating ads. So successful in that metric in terms of how much they spent on the ad, how many leads they got. And it sounds like they got a couple really solid leads that came out of there. And unlike anything with leads in online stuff, there are a lot of terrible ones. But, with something like that, for the ad spend and the creative spend, all they would really need is one of those leads to become an investor in their fund. And that would more than double what they put in. So that was really interesting, and it sounds like we're going to be able to do some more in the future. So I'm excited about doing that.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, hey, thank you so much for listening, everyone. We are the New Marketing for Your Small Business podcast. You can search for that on Facebook, find our Facebook page. I don't know where you're listening to this at the moment, but we are on Apple, Spotify, Google, and then the video version is on YouTube.
And real quick shout out to the people that have downloaded our podcast. I think as of about a month ago, we had like 75 downloads, which for us, that's pretty freaking cool. I can't believe there's that many people out there. So I think that it encourages us to keep going and see if we can get to the next 75.
That's right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.